I'm back. The worst week in history, but I'm back. Who said it was a shitty week?
Mike, you have anything you want to say to the gamblers that bet your bets?
Just trust me.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Thank you. Much appreciated, but we'll leave it up to you to decide whether or not we actually deserve it or not. But if you look, you'll see John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate. He may or may not be here. He's under the weather, man. Kid Gift Egbelu, Mike Friday, the world-renowned sevens coach, and Irish rugby legend George Hook, and they're addressing what's on the slate. Let's get to it. Gentlemen, not a great week, 9-12, and it was enough to keep John from coming on the show, despite the fact that he was the one person with an above 500 record. But that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the real story here, Mike, is you. Oh, boy. Coach Friday, a rough week, including picks against England, Mother England, not to mention picking Wales, where we had you lean into the camera and repeat your pick of Wales, and the Scots, which excited John so much, you got him to change his pick, chanting, "Yes, yes, give me Scotland." What do you have to say, Mike?
I was robbed. Literally, the French couldn't finish a big dinner. I mean, they butchered 5 opportunities, and fair play to the English, they stayed in it and they won it at the death. But the French will be kicking themselves. They bombed about 5 or 6 chances. Wales, first half, fumbled 2 over the line. That puts that into a different type of game. The Italians take their opportunity, then Allen kicks the goals and does a job. And then the Ireland, I mean, fair play Ireland, they were massively impressive, weren't they, first 20 minutes? But then obviously Finn Russell and Darcy Graham having the head collision, and that was that. That was it. Good night, Vienna. Bad week at the office for me, that proper bad. What almost clown behaviour. Absolute joker.
It's a little bit of better's remorse coming from a very humbled Mike Friday. Mike, we appreciate your transparency and your honesty, but you got to pick it up a notch, or we're going to have a sit down, okay? Just to let you know. And Gift, you were, shouting about Steve Borthwick. He's not going to keep his job. And he must have heard you, because what did he do? He takes your man crush out of his position at Marcus Smith, puts him at 15 and replaces him with the other Smith, Finn Smith. And what does Finn Smith do? He has a man of the match performance, and England beats your French.
My French? My
Yes.
French.
Your French.
My goodness. Okay. I see you, New Jersey. Look, Borthwick knew. Look, his job is on the line. Like, you can't keep playing the way you were playing and expect to think you're going to continue on this job. So, hey, I give him the credit. They finally did it. And you know what? The bigger shout out is to Maro Itoje, taking his first captainship and showing what it means as a strong Nigerian man, what it is to lead this English team. Reverse colonization. Let's go.
So every time England loses, you call him English. But now that they won, you call him Nigerian. He's like the Andy Murray of rugby to you.
Hey, look, man. He finally was able to be given the proper title. They gave him the captaincy, and he got to be able to show out. Up until that point, they didn't. So, until Ellis Genji does it, Ellis is English. When he does it, he's Ghanaian. Boom. This is how it goes.
Okay. All right. I'll go with that. All right. So, Mike, any basic observation from the week?
The Finn Smith, Marcus Smith thing worked. I think what we also saw as well, I saw a centre pairing at the end of the game with Finn Smith, which excited me. Ollie Lawrence at 12 and Freeman at 13. I've been crying out for this centre partnership, whether Marcus or Finn plays at 10, because I just think it's ridiculously exciting. And with Manny Wabiozo probably coming back fit and Caelan Murdy coming back into the mix, let's hope that they stick with that midfield. Leave Finn at 10 and leave Marcus at 15, and let's see whether or not we can kick on here with our attacking threats, because it looked good at times. It looked very, very good.
Yeah, I think they got to boost the confidence. Gift, anything that you took away from the weekend?
Warren Gatland just seems like time passed him. There needs to be another coach that's just a little bit more close to this Wales team, because you see it so often. They're young, if you're running a system that doesn't work with them, it's just never going to connect. And it just doesn't connect with them. They're always right there. Just right there.
They're miles away from there. What are you talking about just right there?
No, don't get me wrong. They made a lot of gaffes and mistakes during the Italy game. But you see the ability that's there to break away. If they make that one little catch, they got the movement. But they're not connecting it all together because they're still young.
And if I was 6'3" with a full head of blonde hair, I'd be Thor, okay?
But they are 6'3", and some of them do got blonde hair. Like I said, I think the issue comes back to the youth. The young guys, they play a game that they're scared. They're scared to basically mess up, and it just makes them mess up.
I categorically and unequivocally deny that. They're all young.
It's okay. Nobody's called on you about your education. It's about knowing to be able to see.
A gift has been muted, Mike, as we continue. And Mike, before I ask you the question of whether you would take the Wales head coaching job right now, I just want to go over some of the picks that did work out for us from the Rugby Odds that you criticized me for on Twitter from the Rugby Odds account. They went 6-1, including Ireland covering and then being the first to score 20, including Italy winning and for them to be the first to score 20, France to be the first to score 20. All those picks worked out along with Ireland covering versus Scotland and Italy covering versus Wales. Did you have anything you wanted to say, Mike, about that?
Every dog has its day, and that was that day. I mean, I like I said, it didn't age well for me on Twitter. It did not age well at all. Anything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
It's under the public domain, right? But just briefly, would you take the Wales job?
Would I take the Wales? It's a big job, and it's bigger than the first team. It's all the things that Gift talked about, and it's all about what's going on in the regions, and it's also as well. There's a lot of good Welsh players that they're not able to pick or choosing not to pick that are playing in the Premiership. They need to revoke Gatland's law and pick whatever they can from wherever they can around the world to get themselves competitive. They have got young tens. It's very difficult unless you've got a very experienced pack around them, which is why Prendergast is able to excel with Ireland and why the Welsh fly halves, the young guys, are struggling. They just need time.
Yeah. So the answer would be no.
No, the answer is he agreed with what I said and said that you were wrong, Matt.
Oh, you're teetering. You're teetering. You're very close.
Oh, wrong.
And to keep you from getting unmuted again, John, despite being under the weather, man. What? Under the weather. Beg your pardon. No, easy mistake. Took time out, took his scrum cap off, and gave us his observation.
Yeah, I thought England played with an incredible heart. Look, when they scored those 2 tries in garbage time the week before, that was heart. These guys were out of the game. They kept trying. They are playing as hard as they can absolutely play. Borthwick's doing something right. I don't know how good England is, but look, they beat France. Remarkable endeavor for England.
Thank you, John. Moving right along. Now it's time for our Player of the Week. And the nominees are Ireland's Sam Prendergast, steady and calm beyond his years, was criticized for his kicks and silenced those critics, earning Man of the Match honors. Next is a guy named Finn who plays fly half, but no, it's not Finn Russell, it's Finn Smith. Borthwick's gamble to move Marcus Smith to fullback to accommodate the young Northampton Saint paid off. This Finn, like his young Irish counterpart, was also named Man of the Match. And Lorenzo Cannone, the Italian number 8's performance was likened to a gladiator, but he was a regular Michelangelo versus Mike's Welsh side, particularly in the first half when he had 65 meters gained, 2,000 tackles, and 65 dominant tackles. Mike, who's your pick?
So I'm going for Finn Smith, the English boy. I think it's tight with Cannone, who was a monster for Italy, but he wasn't the difference for Italy, whereas I think Finn Smith ended up being the difference to getting England over the line. First start at 10 in front of Twickenham against France, comes up with the play in the pass that wins the game, and then knocks over the conversion after taking over the kicking duties from Marcus Smith. Fair play. Hat tip. He's the man.
Gift.
I'm all about, wanting to make fun of England from time to time. But, this one really is a Finn Smith one. For once, you actually gave us player of the weeks that actually win their games, which is so unusual in and of itself. So to actually give him the credit that he actually put the team on his back, first time at the 10, actually doing damage, actually taking over and being a game changer, is a true player of the week. I'll even give it to you for finally choosing somebody that deserves this in totality. So Finn Smith going along with Matt McCarthy at Players of the Week this week.
You hear that, Gift? Okay.
I think that's his hat tip for you, Giff. I think that's his hat tip for you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair play. But I'm gonna go back to Rome. I'm going with the Gladiator. I'm going with Lorenzo Cannone, but it doesn't matter because you two have picked Finn Smith, our player of the week. And now it's time for Gift's favorite segment,
Grown Ass Man.
The candidates are Cameron Hanekom of the Bulls. He was seeing red from some of the mistakes made by his sloppy teammates, but he helped them hold on in an instant classic versus the hometown Stormers. Andrew Porter, Ireland's refreshingly quirky loosehead. With Tyke Furlong and Dan Sheehan spending significant time on the injured list, he's been the one constant in their front row, and he had a solid match versus his potential British and Irish Lions competition against Scotland. Ben Earl of England, the number 7, is just a beast. He's a guy you'd hate to play against, but with love on your team, came up huge at Twickenham versus France. And last but not least, John Bradshaw Layfield, who is at home with a powder blue scrum cap on because he's sick. Mike, who's your pick?
It's tough because John, he's a grown-ass man, that bloke. He's a big lad, but he's at death's door and he's still got his scrum cap on and he was keen to play. So it was a tight call.
Let's go.
For me, it's going to be the Bulls fella, Cameron Hanekom. I mean, he was angry and he was bouncing around, knocking people over and bashing people left, right, here and centre, and did a job. So I think he lived up to the definition of a grown-ass man who was pretty angry.
Gift.
And I got to give it to Cameron Hankton, one, because it is the Bulls. And look, they continue to show that whenever they care about the games, they're going to get their wins. And the Stormers, that was a tough game. That was a good game. But yeah, I'll give it to him. Man was smashing. He was smashing.
You guys talked me into Cam because I was going to go with Andrew Porter, but on the road, an epic win, a tough place to play. So Cameron Hanekom
is this week's grown-ass man.
All right, on that note, guys, we're going to take a break. George is going to come in, offer us some wisdom, and then we'll come back and we'll make our picks for the URC, the MLR, Super Rugby, and our picks of the week.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Monsieur, why did France lose?
Our hands.
Merci beaucoup.
À bientôt.
And we're back, and once again, we have Mr. George Hook coming in from Dublin. George, before we get to our headlines with Hook, how are you?
I am good. Obviously, on a good weekend, so I'm quite cheerful.
Quite cheerful. We let's just end the show now. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Let's get that cheer going into our recurring segment.
Headlines with Hook.
Headlines with Hook. First one up, George. One of your favorite guys, fellow Munster man who's now coaching in La Rochelle. The rumor mill is simmering, tweeting that he might be associated with the Australia job. What do you think?
Well, it was suggested when Gatland was under pressure in Wales that he might consider the Welsh job, and he treated it with utter contempt, naming about 12 other countries that he would prefer to coach rather than Wales. I'm surprised. I mean, he's very French now. His kids are French. The lovely Jessica. He's a very lucky guy like me to have married a fabulous lady. It's a big call to go from that whole French background to Australia. I'm surprised. I realize that coaches have to go where the jobs are, but I'm surprised.
How does that make the La Rochelle brass feel about him saying that he would consider it because he wants to coach against the best?
I mean, they want him. I mean, he's been very successful at La Rochelle. The brass at La Rochelle are a bit like George Hook and saying, hold on here, this guy is as French as de Gaulle at this point. Why would he suddenly go to Australia? I have to tell you, I don't get it. I've known this guy since he played his first senior club game in Dublin against Lansdowne for Cork Constitution. So I've known him a long time. This is a very interesting story, and we should be keeping an eye on it.
Also, he said he would want to go to a team that could win. And I'm looking at Australia as not exactly a nation that you would say, okay, they have a chance to win.
No, I think he was probably talking about Australian cricketers. He couldn't possibly have been talking about Australian rugby players because they wouldn't beat their way out of a rice pudding.
All right, let's segue to our next headline, Borthwick's Smith's Conundrum.
Well, there was a previous issue, Farrell and Ford, two really good fly halves, and they tried to fix it by putting Farrell at first centre and Ford at fly half. And it, like all sort of fixes, it didn't really work. Marcus Smith was awful. Apart from some two fairly easy kicks, he did nothing. So Smith, too, Finn Smith, who's now come in and had a super match, he's got to stay. And tough luck, Marcus. We're not going to pick you. We've got Furbank coming in. We're going to play him. He looks like something out of a sort of World War One pilots
Yes.
of the sky stuff. You think Furbank should be in a Sopwith camel against Van Richthofen, and so they've got to get him back. I wouldn't have Marcus Smith within an ass's roar of my 50. He's been overrated since the day they picked him.
The next one, the last headline we have, an Irish three-peat, George, per England, containing Dupont and figuring out a game plan for that guy?
Well, I can only restrain my anger at your destruction of the English language, which are three-peat, which doesn't appear anywhere in the Oxford Dictionary, all right? I don't think France can ever be as bad again as they were against England. I mean, when the best rugby player in the world, Dupont, drops the ball 6 paces from the line, how many times in his life is he going to do that? I mean, you got to assume we're going to beat the hapless Welsh and we're going to beat the Italians. So it's France for your famous three-peat. I think France will be very difficult. I don't believe they're going to be as bad as this again. But we're not bad. We being the Irish, we're not bad. We've got a scrum. We've got a slightly malfunctioning line out, but not bad. We've got two smashing hookers. We've got the best scrum half, second only to Dupont. There is a problem. I do not understand how Ireland can imagine they cannot select, in my view, the best number 13, maybe in the world, Gary Ringrose, and not pick him. I just don't understand it. I'm appalled that he wasn't selected. How you can go into a rugby match, and Schmidt did this famously in South Africa to his cost. Why you go in with two inside centres just is mind-boggling. Like a team that has smashing fullbacks, smashing wings, you need an outside centre. And we're going in with two bish bang wallop guys, two number 12s. I don't get it. And my regard for Easterby is high about what he's done, but that's a mistake, a big one.
All right, now this is not a headline, and we only have 30 seconds left, but it follows nicely. Are you changing your opinion on Prendergast after his man-of-the-match performance over Crowley?
I think he was lucky to get man of the match. I think he was lucky that two Scottish backs had a head collision and were off the pitch, including the Scottish fly half Finn Russell. I don't think that's got enough credit, if credit is the right word, for how that affected Scotland, losing two critical guys. I think he was okay. He was immeasurably better than England. But the jury, in other words, the jury of G. Hook, the jury is still out.
All right, and there you have it.
Headlines with Hook.
Thank you, George Hook.
Pleasure.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now.
And we're back. Let's start with the URC. And who do you like, Mike?
It's a tough one, Mike, because there's a lot of players missing. I'm going to look at this Ospreys-Leinster game, because Ospreys are without Jack Morgan, without their 10, with all of their kind of big boys that make a big difference to the Ospreys team. Whereas Leinster have got up, whilst they've got a lot of players out, they've got a really good second team that can go and do a job. So I am going to pick Leinster to win and cover.
Gift?
You know me. I'm always going to fly down when it comes to the South African teams. But, look, the Sharks team is struggling. And the Bulls are continuing to try and show why they're the number one team in South Africa right now. So I'm looking at that minus 9.5 points to Bulls. I think the Bulls are going to be able to cover. Sharks are just not in a position to be able to do very much because they practice too hard and they decide to snap all their ligaments non-game time.
Okay. All right. That's some different kind of analysis. All right. That's fine. I'm going to go with Munster at home minus 13.5 versus Scarlets just because it's Munster at home. And here's what John had to say.
URC pick. I know Etzebeth is probably out. I'm still thinking 9.5 points is too many points. Give me the Sharks.
Now we've got Major League Rugby back in action. Season 8. And these spreads are not off the internet. They're from our TRO, the Rugby Odds technicians. The first weekend, Mike, who do you like in the MLR?
I'm going to go San Diego. New regime, John Minenti, shrewd man from Australia. Knows his players from the Shoot Shield. He would have recruited quite well. I think San Diego back at the Torero Stadium win and cover.
Oh, Seattle's the road favorite as per our crack staff. Gift.
We're back, NOLA. They have a brand new head coach. Got new funding, new technical owners being added into it. I think there's a new vigor that's going along with this team. Anthem, again, just to be determined. I think that should be better this year, but look for New Orleans at home to be able to cover it.
Odd that you're picking NOLA. Wow.
I'm sorry, mister. I'm Irish, but I pick England all the time.
You got to stop listening to Layfield because you're starting to sound like him. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to go with the Free Jacks on the road. Favorites, -4, crazy, but all they do is win games that they don't think they can win. And they've got an arsenal of back row players there that might offset that new back line for LA. So I'm going with New England. And here's what John said.
MLR, look, you got the same issues you got last year. You've got so many starting teams that have no African-American players on them, and I have a real issue with that, and that's probably not going to change. So I don't really have a lot of love for the MLR because of that, because of lack of diversity. I think rugby is supposed to be a diverse sport and inclusive, and it's not with men's rugby in the United States. But give me Miami at home. I think the weather here in D.C., I know these guys have an indoor training facility, but you're going to be outdoors for the first time, a trip down to Miami. Give me Miami.
All right, fellas, let's take a quick commercial break and come back with Super Rugby picks. It's their kickoff of their new season and picks of the week after this.
From New York City comes America's longest running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City. Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we're back, and let's go down under on the other side of the world. Let's go to Super Rugby's initial weekend. Mike, who do you like kicking off Super Rugby?
Oh, right. Controversial. I'm going to go for a home win. The G and Drua.
Oh.
They're bubbling nicely. Brumby's first up. They've got to travel. They might be a bit clunky. I'm going for the Fijian Drua to win first off the bat.
Gift.
Last year, this team was hot garbage. All right. Historically great, hot garbage. I'm looking at the Crusaders at that minus 1.5. Hot garbage to the fact that you kept wishing that they would get a win, and they kept ignoring you, Matt, each time. All right. But they're going up against the Hurricanes.
It was very hurtful, by the way. It was very hurtful.
But they're going up against the Hurricanes. The key is I think this Crusaders team is going to have a relapse. I think they're going to be coming back, finding their form again. Look for them to at least cover the 1.5 points, get the win out of this basically against the Hurricanes.
You said they're having a relapse, which means they're relapsing, go back to being bad,
back to being good.
That nobody says it that way.
I just did. I changed the game. All right, call me Shakespeare. I'm making new definitions.
Shakespeare. Okay, Shakespeare, King Shakespeare. Who am I to argue with that logic? But Mike, the Brumbies are a good team. They're a good team. I'm just saying. But I'm going to go with Moana Pacifica.
So you'll take my Vivian Bua.
Artie Surveyor's on that team. I'm going Moana Pacifica to cover versus the Western Force. Here's what John had to say.
Blues at home versus the Chiefs.
All right, guys, now it's time for John's favorite part of the show, Picks of the Week. Mike, who do you like?
Well, I've got to stay with the tradition, haven't I? I've got to try and pick a French top 14 away winner in a week where nobody in France probably cares.
And a week that you're coming off a wobbly week, because this is very gutsy.
Let's not bring that up again. But
I'm not going to bring up your week again.
Right, okay, let's not mention the week one.
We won't mention the shitty week again.
So I'm going to go, I think, Toulouse, because they've actually still got a number of internationals that are unavailable for their countries available to play. So I am going to pick Toulouse as the away winner in the top 14 against Clermont.
You're a grown-ass man, Mike Friday. That's what you are.
What's stupid? One of the two.
No, don't you say that about yourself on this program, sir. You can say that on all the other programs, not on this one. Gift.
I'm going to go back to URC. Look at Benetton, team that's slowly kind of on the rise whenever they're not trying to suck. They're going up against Ulster, 1.5 points in favor of Ulster. Look for Benetton to win this game.
You know, they're going to be missing some key players there, Gift.
Look for Benetton to keep this game close, within 1 point.
Okay, so the Ulster's given 1.5, and Gift just said 1 point. Beautiful. Nothing like boxing yourself in, Gift. Okay. I like NOLA to cover that 8 over Anthem. And here's what John had to say.
Give me Miami.
All right. On that note, fellas, we're out of time. I want to thank John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Fame return Rugby Advocate. We hope he's feeling better soon. King Gift Egbelu, the Amender Awards, Mike Friday, the world-renowned Sevens coach, and George Hook, the Irish rugby legend. And thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other programs, including MLR Weekly. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. It won't kill you. And please tell your friends about us while you're joining our American Red Cross blood donor team. Yeah, while you're doing that.